Hello everyone, welcome to this video's deck tech of Edward Kenway from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Edward is one of my favorite characters from the Assassin's Creed franchise, a man who started with nothing and became a master assassin who fought against the Templars during the golden age of piracy. Let's get started with the commander. Edward Kenway costs 2 colorless, 1 red, 1 blue, and 1 black to cast from the command zone. He is a legendary human assassin pirate who has 5 power and 5 toughness. His text is, at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each tapped assassin, pirate, and or vehicle you control. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Looking at his abilities, these treasure tokens will help us advance our board state and give us a way to protect ourselves with interactive spells during our opponent's turns. On top of that, this gives us an opportunity to steal cards from our opponent's libraries, as many opponents tend to scry or surveil and leave cards on top of their library, and we can take those key parts from their decks and use them for our advantage. So let's get into the goals of this deck. The goal of this deck is to deal a lot of combat damage and non-combat damage to our opponents. We're going to be taking cards from the top of our opponent's libraries, and we're also going to be trying to set up pieces for our win condition. Combat damage is the primary way this deck operates to achieve its goals. In this commander deck, we have a decent amount of very useful pirates. Each pirate has a way of interacting with our opponents or our pieces to help us progress the game. For example, Breach's Eager Pillager can help us draw game parts when we need to find answers or game pieces, or help make combat smoother for us, or create treasure to help us cast bigger pieces faster. Captain Storm makes our creatures larger to help us deal with our opponent's creatures and inflict more damage. Merchant Raiders helps us deal with opponent's creatures that can deal a lot of damage, or tap down creatures they need to defend themselves. Changeling Outcast is a nice addition, as it can deal combat damage to our opponents unimposed and can be useful with other creatures in his deck that I will discuss later. We also have a few ways of dealing non-combat damage to our opponents in this deck. Reckless Fireweaver helps us deal damage to our opponents when we cast artifacts and when Edward makes treasures at the end step. Marionette Apprentice is a great creature piece that can be a decent sized creature when it enters or help make a blocker when needed. Since this deck will be making a lot of treasures, in parts to Edward Kenway, it will do a lot of damage to our opponents since we sacrifice artifacts to cast spells. Underhanded Designs is a great enchantment piece that makes our opponents think twice before they attack or take other actions. It can also drain opponents' lives and helps us gain a bit of life. Now, the main way this deck accelerates into its wins is by casting Edward out and making treasures. The primary method for making treasures is by attacking with our creatures or crewing them into vehicles, so that way they're tapped for the end step trigger to happen. For example, Ragavan, Nimble Pillager, can help us steal cards from our opponents and accelerate our mana potential in the early game. Breach's Eager Pillager, as before, can help us by attacking and making a treasure token. Malcolm Keen-Eye Navigator also helps us make treasures by dealing combat damage to our opponents with our creatures. Mary Reed and Anne Bonny also helps us make treasures from impulse drawing. This deck also loves to take opponents' cards, so this deck includes many creatures that can do that. Gonti Knight Minister is a great creature piece that encourages our opponents to swing at each other, leaving them vulnerable for us to swing and accelerate our game state. Since this deck is Pirate Tribal, Ramirez de Pietro is a great piece that helps us steal cards. Ragavan Nimble Pillager, as before, can help you steal cards when dealing damage. Crowhazer Recruiter is a great piece as we cast pirates. We can take valuable creatures from our opponents and use them against them, and the great part is there are pirates who help make treasures when Edward Kenway is out on the battlefield. Hajj's Taker can also take artifacts and creatures our opponents have. Deluxe Dragster is an unblockable vehicle that can cast our opponent's spells from their graveyard. For interaction, we have many counter spells in this deck to stop our opponents from doing things that can help them win the game or hinder our plans. There are also removal pieces in our deck, such as Dead Before Sunrise, which is a good removal piece that deals with opponent's creatures and can help us have a smoother combat phase or give our creatures the boost they need to deal 1 more damage that is needed to win the game. Untimely Malfunction is a good multi-use card as it can remove an artifact the opponent controls or make them lose their best blockers too. For mana rocks, we have the basic Talisman within the color of Grixis, and the iconic Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Felwar Stone to help us cast opponent's spells that are not within our colors. In this deck, there are a few tutors. Gifts Ungiven can help us get a win condition or give our opponents the chance to choose how they lose. Just be careful when you cast it, as it can make you an arch enemy for the table if casted and not used fast enough. Deadeye Quartermaster helps us find useful vehicles such as Horde Hauler or Imposter Mech. Forerunner of the Coalition can help us find a pirate we need in the moment and deal non-combat damage to our opponents when we cast them. Scour for Scrap can help us find or retrieve an artifact from our graveyard, or both. The deck offers many ways to draw cards. Rhystic Study can help us draw cards and make our opponents use their mana resources. The Indomitable can help us draw a card and can be a good attacker or blocker when needed. Since this deck can make a lot of artifacts, Jackdaw can help us draw into win cons or answers. Smuggler Copter can help us draw cards and steal cards with Edward Kenway. Finale Revelation can help us draw a lot of cards and usually can help us have the no maximum hand size effect. Mayor Reed and Anne Bonny can also help us draw cards and make treasures to the finishers of this deck. The deck offers several ways of winning. One is Torment of Hellfire. When we use Radiant Lotus with treasure tokens that we can make massive amounts of mana to kill our opponents or leave them in a very weak state. Otheros Titanic God Core can also help generate massive amounts of mana and assist us in tapping our creatures so we can create treasure tokens with Edward. Archway of Innovation can help us cast Hellfire for a significant amount too. Reckless Fireweaver and Marionette Apprentice combined with Academy Manufacturer can deal massive amounts of damage. This combination also helps create artifacts like clues for drawing cards and food for gaining life when needed. Additionally, it can also help with the combo of Torment of Hellfire and the previous cards I've mentioned. Cyberdrive Awakener can also be our win condition, as we can use all the artifacts in a combat manner and help finish our opponents with Flying 4-Force. The last method involves Malcolm Keen Navigator and Glinthorn Buccaneer. As long as there are two opponents with similar life totals, you can win instantly by activating this combo. So let's get into the overview of the whole deck. We have 25 creatures, 17 artifacts, 16 instants, and 35 lands. We have 3 sorceries, and we have 3 enchantments. I hope you enjoy my deck tech and you like and subscribe to my channel. See you on the next one.